Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Gardening with One Knee in Zone 5B. My name is Janelle and I am here to take the intimidation out of gardening for anybody that wants to get started. Maybe show you some tips and tricks along the way. We'll be growing peppers and tomatoes and other vegetables, flowers, and a few herbs. Today I kind of wanted to start this video out about filling seed trays. Now I got these on Amazon quite some time ago. They come with a hat, a dome. This one's a little sweaty, but it's got this little thing right here, and you can spin it so that it opens up when your plants start to sprout so they don't damp off. And then you can close it while you're waiting for them to sprout to keep all the moisture and the humidity in. I think they sell them like in a 10 pack, and sometimes they'll sell multiple 10 packs. If I can think of it, I will try to put a link for that below in the description box. But anyway, these are kind of small, but they're 12. And the reason why I like these is they're clear. So as the plants grow, you can kind of see how the roots are developing, and you'll know how fragile your roots are, and if they're real prosperous, they're going to grow right out of the bottom. They have these little holes. See that? So, for those of you that are new, for starting out your seeds in a tray, you want your soil to be broken up and fluffy. So this soil here, this has some clumps in it. It's been sitting for a while, but you know, like I got a big clump. So I'm gonna break that up, and I'm just gonna kind of get this like soft, pull out any sticks, stones. I started breaking this up before, and I got this great big stick. And this bag came with a little piece of plastic. All bonuses. So anyway, I am going to break this up, and then I always fill my trays in the bag just because then there's less mess in my kitchen. It's Thursday night, let's throw some dirt around in my kitchen. And I want to just kind of show you how when you fill the tray, just don't leave it as is, because, all right. So by a glance of this tray looks like it is full of soil, correct? But if you start pushing your fingers down to kind of tamp it down, you'll realize how little of soil there really, really is. So now if I show you that, you can see how those great big holes. I gotta add a little bit more soil. And always try to break up your clumps and kind of feel around for sticks or stones, because as your little seed is growing, those roots are kind of fragile, and when they bump into a stick or a stone, it's kind of annoying for them because it's in their way. It's kind of like, think of a little tiny stone in your shoe when you're walking. Yeah, you can still walk, but it would be better if it wasn't there so that you could do better with walking. So think of it that way. Just get rid of those sticks and stones. All right. So now I just kind of topped it off, and I'm going to kind of tap it down like this. And again, I'm just going to take my big fingers, I'm just going to press around in here. Myself, I usually kind of like don't get a lot in the corners for some reason, just my skill. And then each year too, when I start to drag all these little trays out, I kind of look at the bottoms because these are plastic, and through time, they could technically crack. And if you have these someplace like on nice furniture, which I wouldn't do, but if you have it on nice furniture and you're watering and the excess water goes into this tray and it finds that little crack, it could ruin like woodwork. But these are all gonna go on to growing racks out in the living room. All right, so now I've got to kind of press down a little bit more there, because you want it kind of solid, because when you add water to real fluffy soil, the water is just going to like push it all down to the bottom, and then your seed is going to have like this much extra space on the top of the tray with no soil, so you're kind of cheating your seed out. But anyway, I wanted to show you that part, and then we are going to seed a couple things. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be seeding this year. I got it right here. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to just show you the things that I'm going to be planting. Root vegetables like beets and carrots and parsnips, I plant those, but I'm not gonna do those in the house. Root vegetables don't really like to be in trays. I think beets are okay, but I know carrots aren't for sure. But since they're a root vegetable, they just like to be planted once. You can experiment with it and let me know how it works for you. So I'm gonna just kind of direct sow those. Now, my conundrum here is I have a lot of critters. I'm fine with that. They don't really bother the raised beds. The squirrels and the chipmunks get in there. And I learned a lesson, and I did an experiment last year and it worked. I would plant my peas, for example, or some ornamental corn, and I'm pretty sure they were watching me, just waiting for me to turn my back, and they dug them all up. So I might have planted like 70 pea seeds and I had 10. That's not fun. So what I did was I seeded the peas in the house in these trays about, I think, 2 weeks before our last frost, I think it was. And I waited until they got about, I don't know, 3 inches high or so. And then I planted them outside last year. Nothing bothered them. I got peas. So I had to outsmart my critters. I do the same thing with ornamental corn because they just wait again. Oh, wait till she turns her back. And then they just dig it up and run off like, oh, look at this pretty corn. This is beautiful. Look at this. So that's how I kind of beat them at their own game with just those 2 things. I will plant corn in these trays. I'm only going to do maybe a dozen. Last year I got maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 little corn cobs. And then of course I had the plant for fall decoration. So that was like a 2-for-1. But I will plant those here probably like, I'll say early May. I'm not going to do those tonight or anything. And tonight I'm just doing vegetables. I'm going to do flowers on the weekend. The 2 new things that I'm planting are soya beans and fava beans. And these I'm planting because they bring nitrogen into the soil. So if I get some beans, yay. But if I don't, that's okay. The foliage is going to be a chop and drop, and I'm just going to let nature take its course so that the nitrogen goes back into the soil. Nitrogen, all your plants need some nitrogen, and they hope to get it from your soil. But remember, I have raised beds, so it's not like soil in the ground. So I kind of have to be a little bit more attentive to that, I feel, just to make sure like my soil health is good. Because if all of a sudden my soil turns to like rock hard, and just not, no nutrition or anything, it's going to be hard for me to grow anything. So I kind of keep an eye on that. The soya beans are kind of cool because this is what they make soy milk out of and tofu. So I'm kind of interested to see what I'm going to get out of this. I wanted to give it a try at least. There's kind of a lot in there. So we're going to be doing those. Now these I'm not going to plant in trays tonight, but I just wanted to show you them and tell you what their purposes are in my house. These can go outside after we stop getting snow. We had like 2 inches of snow on top of a good inch of slush last night. High winds. That's why I kind of have hat head because I was outside shoveling a couple times. But that's why I'm going to be growing these. Is as soon as that soil gets a little soft out there, then I'm going to safely put these in the ground and hopefully they'll take off. So those are for a later date, but they're coming. I'm going to put those in my garden. The berries here, goji berries, which are supposed to be really high in antioxidants, and then huckleberries. I've had huckleberry pie. I think I've had huckleberry jam. We didn't have these growing up as a kid, and I didn't know why. And I thought a huckleberry bush was similar to like a blueberry bush or a strawberry where it came back year after year. This is actually an annual. They're very, very sweet. And what you do is you wait until those berries get big and soft and dark. And that's when you harvest them to use them. They're very sweet. If you harvest a unripened berry, they can be a little toxic. And when I say toxic, it's gonna depend who you are and what your body chemistry is like. But a lot of times they say foods are toxic for you, and it's just gonna give you an upset stomach and maybe extra trips to the bathroom. No other way to put that. So I would find it hard to believe that it would be a full-blown anaphylactic shock where your throat closes up and you start turning purple and you got to get an EpiPen and jab it in you. You know, that's kind of like a bee sting. That's a food allergy. There's food intolerances, which is what most of us have, but there are food allergies where the person will have an anaphylactic shock. And you hear about it with peanuts, some dairy products with kids especially. Sometimes they outgrow it. But anyway, getting off subject here, I'm going into health. So those are the 2 berries I'm going to be growing. I think I'm going to try to plant 6 of each. Maybe I'm not going to have a really good germination rate. These are all new to me, so I don't know how they're going to turn out. We'll do it together. These are experiments. I planted these a couple years ago, and I gave 1 plant to my neighbor, and I have 2 here, and they are struggling to survive. And my neighbor's really huge and beautiful. I wouldn't be surprised if she got berries off of it this year. So those are the 2 berries. And then we're going to go into the vegetables next. So I'm growing mustard. Mustard green has a flavor of spinach, but I'm growing this as something for garden health. So mustard kind of has some antifungals in it. So let's say, you know, you're gonna want it, like if you have cooler or damp soil, there's types of molds and little fuzzies that can grow. This is a way to ward that off. Also, there is a type of a bug, I think they call it a harlequin bug or something like that. It's like a real dark purple, and it's got like a boxy shape to it, and just, you know, like those perfect little antennas. They will eat on this versus your brassicas. And brassicas are things like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. I think Brussels sprouts are also brassica. So the little bug will eat this instead of your other things. Now I will be planting cabbage and possibly some cauliflower, so I don't want bugs to be eating that. I also learned last year that if you plant dill with cabbage, that wards off bugs also. And last year I had some bug damage, but not nearly as bad as what I've heard other people having, where some of their leaves just look like lace because the bugs have. So I did have a couple of times where I saw some snails when it got real hot and humid, but I just picked those off and threw them on the lawn for the birds to get. So that's why I'm growing mustard. The next one is kohlrabi. Kind of standard, kind of basic. They get to be about 2 inches, I don't know, 4 inches maybe. You don't want them to grow like super huge because then they get a little woody. But to me, they kind of have a cabbage taste to them. You can steam them and have a little butter on them. I just prefer them raw. But I'm going to be growing these. Now, some root vegetables, now this really isn't a root vegetable because it grows above the soil pretty much, but some root vegetables, they don't like to be seeded in trays like this. They prefer to be direct sowed outside, and that would be things like carrots, probably beets, probably parsnips. Those are things that I direct sow out there. So that's kind of why I want to have some kohlrabi planted ahead of time. I like it. I'm going to try to grow 12 of them. So one of these trays will be for kohlrabi. Next is strawberry spinach. This is a cool plant because in its early phases, it has spinach leaves. And the spinach isn't terrible. I like baby spinach, you know, more so than this spinach. But as the plant matures, it creates little red berries, strawberry. And they have like a light, sweet, melony flavor to them. They call it strawberry spinach because they look like little strawberries, but they don't taste like strawberry at all. It has a real slight melon flavor to them. It's a nice little snack. So I let mine go to seed so that I got the little berries at the end of the summer, and it was delicious. Then, this is going to be a bush cucumber. Can't you tell? That's what the picture says. I've planted these probably for the last 7 or 8 years. They only need like about 2 feet of space, and then they produce your little cucumbers. Cucumbers, they get to be like 4 or 5 inches. I don't make a whole lot of pickles, but I do like snacking on them. Now I'm totally out of pickles downstairs right now, so this year I will can some dill pickles and just have those on the shelf. I go through phases. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this cold jar of pickles tastes really good. And I'll just, oh, and then they're gone. The next thing is China Jade cucumber. And they do get real long like that. This one here has very tiny seeds. And I guess it's the seeds that make people burp. So I don't want to say that this is a burp list. Let me see if it says stunning jade, snacking oh, it says making seedless and burpless cuke. So that's what that is. These can also kind of like grow like a woo, like that. So they're a little bit harder to clean. And what I just do is I chop off the straight ends, clean those, and then I just kind of work away on the middle part that might be a little curled. I love them. I love them so much. They're so good. And the last thing is cabbage. Now, I don't know if this is going to be like the ideal sauerkraut making cabbage, but last year I grew some cabbage and it didn't get super big, so I went to the produce stand in our area and I picked up, I want to say about 20 pounds. And that might sound like a lot, but their heads were really big and nice and tight. So sauerkraut cabbage, excuse me, makes a nice tight head where everything is dense, where your regular eating cabbage has like feathery layers. So that's what I know about cabbage. Actually, I did think of something more about cabbage. My primary reason for growing and wanting to get my hands on cabbage is I like to make sauerkraut. My family would grow a lot of cabbage. Not that many years ago, my dad and my uncle, they grew a bunch of cabbage. I think maybe one of the neighbors too, and it ended up being a flat rack full of cabbage heads, just one level high. Them, it might have been a little bit higher in some points, but and a flat rack is kind of like a hay wagon, and this particular flat rack had boards on the sides so the stuff didn't wobble and fall off. But anyway, it took, let's see, there was 3 of us shredding. And we do this outside, keep the mess outside. I mean, you can do it in the house, but it's just nicer to do it outside. There were 3 of us shredding, and my uncle was mixing in the pump house. My dad and one of the neighbors was pulling off leaves and coring it, just to make like the process go a little bit quicker. And we did this all day. And you get a little sore and tired and stuff like that, but it's fun. And then you wait about, I don't know, a month and a half. It depends on what the temperature is like. If it's kind of warm, it goes faster. And then your sauerkraut is done, and then it's ready to be canned. You can freeze it also. I used to always, listen to me, I used to always get cabbage from the store, from the produce stand, depending what time of year it is. And I would slice it up real thin. And you want it the thickness of a dime. You want it real thin, real feathery. And I had a fermentation kit. So I would get a head of cabbage, slice it up, massage it so that you bruise it up to get the juices moving out of it. And then I would jam it into a wide mouth quart jar with my fist. And then I would put the weight on it and I would let it ferment. And I did it like 1 head at a time or 2 heads at a time, quart by quart. But I invested in a regular shredder, and that's how I've been doing it now. And I usually can quarts because I make matanki, which is like a sauerkraut pancake. It's not like a pancake like you think, like, ooh, put maple syrup on it. It's nothing like that. It is cracklings, flour, sauerkraut, pepper. That's about it, I think. And you roll it real flat, and you put it on a cookie sheet, and you bake it in the oven. Very delicious. I also like making Reuben casserole. I like having sauerkraut on pizza. I like it on salad. It's got a lot of probiotics in it, so for the people that go out and they buy a little bottle of probiotics, if you consume about a 1/4 cup of sauerkraut, couple forkfuls per day, those are the probiotics that are in the pill. Just saying. I wasn't explained that until I had my appendix burst, and long story short, the insurance would not cover the surgery, and I was very, very sick. And when I came home, I was on like a lot of medication, and the surgeon said, you know, hey, it's going to wipe out your good bacteria, take probiotics. And at that time, I was kind of experimenting with kefir, but I kind of build up like an intolerance to kefir, and then all of a sudden it starts disagreeing with me. And I told him, I said, well, you know, I kind of eat a couple forkfuls of sauerkraut a day. He goes, say no more, that replaces the probiotic. And he's the one that told me that if you have about a quarter cup of sauerkraut a day or a couple forkfuls a day, that is the probiotics that you get in your pill form. There you have it, folks. So let's plant a couple of these together. I'll show you the process, and I'm not going to bore you all night long with every single one, but I'll kind of show you the process here, okay? One step at a time. I kind of did these ahead of time, and let's see here. We'll get started. I just thought of something. Before we get started, I wanted to show you this book I picked up this fall. It's not being promoted. Plant Partners. It talks a little bit about what plants to plant together to kind of ward off one kind of a pest or a disease, kind of like how the calendula flower will attract aphids so that the aphids don't bother your tomatoes. Cucumber beetles. I learned that if you plant a couple of radishes in that little mound with the cucumbers, that takes care of the cucumber beetle. I did that last year. And don't pull your radishes, let them get really tall, let them flower, let them go to seed, and that wards off the cucumber beetle. And I did that last year and it worked. So there's kind of some cool little things like that. And you know, I'm sure there's a lot more out there, and I'm open to more ideas. And some things I've tried and you know, it didn't really work out. So let's do the first thing that I want to do is goji berries and huckleberries. I'm going to do 3 goji berries and 9 huckleberries. So let's do it like this. Or I can do it. You can do it. So I can do 8 huckleberries and 4 goji berries. That's what I'll do. I'm just gonna make a label for each row so I know what's in each row. Huckleberry. And today's date is 3/20. I'm gonna make one more like that. Kind of exciting. By the way, my tomato project, that's almost done. I only have about 5 varieties back there, kind of waiting for a few more to sprout. My growing rack is really full, and I think I might have to order in some lights and wire up one more growing rack. Good problem to have. I have no control. That's like when I go into like a gardening center. I've mentioned this before. I have no self-control. $100 later, I'm walking out of there, and then I wonder, oh, I don't have any money. That's why I need supervision. All right, so I just put huckleberries on here like that, and this row here is going to be goji berries. So I got these kind of off center there. That's better. So now we put the dirt in here. I'm just gonna kind of put some little holes in here. Always read your seed packet to see how deep you should plant. This one says 1/8 of an inch. That's barely anything. So they want to be more on the surface. This is probably one of those seeds that it takes sunlight to germinate. So there's 16 seeds in here. What the what? I have high hopes. Oh, they're like dust. Oh my goodness. All right, I think I pretty much have more than that. Honestly, there's some little light yellow seeds in the palm of my hand. Teeny tiny. But I'll be able to at least see them on the top of the soil. If I can pick one up. My fingers are so dry I can't even feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and when you plant your seeds, always try to get them kind of right in the middle of your cell. Your cell is just one of those little spots. And that way there's room in all directions for the roots to go. So these are kind of like right on the surface. It said 1/8 inch. So I'm just gonna lightly press them in. And then I'm gonna kind of shuffle the soil real gentle on top. And I'm gonna use my dribble bottle to kind of water those in. All right, guys, get started. Do your thing. There we go. And now I'm just gonna put 4 goji berries in the other one. I wanna get this nice and moist. All right. Next, goji berries. And this one says 1/4 inch deep, so I can make a little bit deeper of an indentation in each one of these cells. Oh, I hope you guys do good for me this year. I really want goji berries because they're supposed to be so good for you. What? 5? I said 4, guys. Cooperate. All right. 1. Oh goodness. 2, 3, 4. All right, you just kind of push the soil up around it like that. Get the dribble bottle, and I'm just gonna kind of do this. This method here is really nice, and you know, like the water bottles that have the pop-up top, those are really nice too, because you can kind of just like, I don't know if I can really show you, but like you can just kind of control, you know, like how much comes out. So then when your plants are really young and tiny and real fragile, you're not, how would I say it? The weight of a water drop can bend a stem. So it's just kind of good to dribble the water like right around the base. The roots will find it. It encourages the roots to grow. And I believe I have to make a label. I do. All right, goji berries. $3.20. There we go. And I'm just gonna put a label on here. Like that. Ta-da! All right, I can't suppress my weirdness all the time. And I'm gonna put a little hat on here. I'm gonna make sure that this part here is closed. So that's open because I can see the holes. This is closed. So it's gonna look like that. And then I will put this on a grow rack out in the living room for them to grow. Now, the next one, let's see here. We planted goji berries and huckleberries, so we're gonna set those aside. Let's see what else we got. Let's do a whole tray of cabbage. Cabbage. This is to be just 1/4 inch deep. Label my tray. I planted 6 cabbage last year, 5 sprouted, and they all developed. One head was pretty small. I think my largest head was 3 pounds, which isn't super big. They were all like right around there though. So, cabbage. $3.20. Let's get that label on there. All right, there we go. I'm just gonna kind of do my little, oh, so now this one here, the soil kind of collapsed a little bit. So that means I gotta bring some more soil up here. Let's get that in there. Here's a stick. All right, and did I say 1/4 inch? Yes, I did. There we go. Cabbage seeds are a little bit bigger. See? That's about 8 cabbage. Whoa! 8 cabbage seeds there. So again, only 1 per cell. 1, 2. See, nothing always is perfect here either. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's just short. 1. Not bad. I count out loud. I count out loud to myself, and I kind of try to always go the same route on my seed trays. All right, I'm just gonna put this 1 in here so I don't lose track and then start doubling up. All right, let's try to get this 1 seed in here. Why? There we go. Good. So there. Now I've got the cabbage seeded. And this is pretty much how the rest of my night's gonna go. I'm just gonna be seeding out most of my stuff like this, watering it in. I only have a few more varieties to go. The cucumbers I'm probably gonna put into pots that are like maybe about that size. Cucumbers can be a little fussy for transplanting. They don't like to get moved around a lot. So what I've usually done is just put them into their own little large pot and just let them do their thing. So let's go ahead and dribble some water here. Remember, you want to get your soil nice and moist because that's what's going to make the shell around what's inside soft so that the inside can crack it open and start growing. It's kind of fun doing stuff like this. Therapeutic. Am I the type of girl that gets her nails done? Nope, not me. Absolutely not. They always look nice, but not for me. I just wreck everything that comes in contact with my hands. All right, so there, I got another one done, cabbage. And then I'm just gonna put its little hat on. This one here, the